Well, hi everybody. Happy Friday on this beautiful, warm, sunny, lovely Friday in downtown Kitchener. That's where I'm from. Hi everybody. When you check in, please let me know where you're from. I love to see all the places that everyone's joining us from. We have new members all over the world. It's fantastic. So we'll start in a few minutes. Chat, let me know how you're doing. Say hi. We're going to give it a couple of minutes for people to check in. And we'll go through how we're going to set up and paint the great pumpkin. Because it is that time of year. And we're going to celebrate fall. And maybe not so much trick-or-treating this year. That's sad, but a true fact. And I hope everyone's set up, because this is painting cocktails. We've got our paint. We got our cocktails. I got some lovely white wine. Lovely Ontario white wine. Cheers. Hi Debbie from Georgetown. Good evening. How you doing? Today we're going to have one of the most difference in temperatures drop I think we've recorded all year. Today it was 24 degrees and sunny, and by the time midnight rolls around it's meant to be about 3 degrees. I think that's the end of our lovely fall weather. I'm going to start getting into a November-ish type weather, which is not my favorite time of year, to be honest. Who else we got with us? Melissa, Tammy, Leanne from Brampton. Hello, hello. From Woodsley, Ontario, Anne. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for joining us today. Okay, who else we got there? Hi there, Linda. And Melissa from Binbrook. Lovely Binbrook. Been there a few times. And I've got a new setup here, as you may notice. Some of you are our regulars will see. I've turned a room into a studio here with a new lighting setup and everything. But it means for me that the computer's a little bit further away. So that's why you're going to see me leaning in to take a look. I need these glasses. Hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody. That's great. Hope you're all ready to go. Everyone's got their cocktail. And let's go through the setup that we need here, of course. So we need a canvas. Doesn't matter what size. I standardly use the 16 by 20. It doesn't really matter. You can use whatever size canvas suits you. Need a cup of water. And you need 3 brushes. Big, I like to use about a 1 inch or slightly thereunder. 3/4 inch is fine. Medium brush and a small brush. Big, medium, and small. I got some napkins or paper towel to do the cleaning. I got a foam plate, and I've distributed my paints like this. We're going to make quite a bit of orange. So either A, you can just use orange, which is fine. But to get the different tones, different shades, I like to use my mixture of red and yellow. And we will be adding a bit of brown, a wee bit of black, some white and some blue. And blue and yellow, of course, will make our green. Different shades to make as many leaves as we may or may not want. Again, we like to call this fun art, not fine art. So the idea is that we're going to throw some paint on this canvas, see what happens. Don't fret if you think there's no way you're going to be able to make this exact painting, because I can tell you now you're right. You won't. You're going to make something similar but different, which is the whole point, right? Again, it's not a photocopy class. It's painting. So every time I do it, it's going to come out different. Every time you do it, it's going to be different. And everybody in the group today is going to have something that's similar but different. And I love to see the final products when you're done. Show me pictures at the end. We'll share them. We'll see them all together. They're always wonderful. Okay, so hopefully you've already got your paints poured. Okay, and we use this as our mixing plate as well. If you have a separate plate, that's fine. You can have a separate plate, but I always just end up using the same plate. We mix right into the colors here. Okay, so let's get started. Grab my canvas, and this is a horizontal painting, but of course everything's optional. You can do it vertical too. And the first thing we're going to do is draw using a mixture of yellow and white to make a very pastel yellow to sort of draw where we roughly want the pumpkin to end up. And why we do it in that color is that when we start painting the background around it, you can reshape it if you didn't like it. Makes sense? Okay, for this, we're going to start off with our medium brush. Okay, so the 3 brushes, big, medium, little, medium brush. And I'm going to mix up some pastel yellow. Now, you won't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to do mine in blue. Don't do yours in blue because it's going to be hard to correct. To make up the yellow, I'll show you. We're going to grab a little bit of yellow and put it right into a corner of white and mix it in. So it's nice and basically you're tinting the white so it becomes a little shade of yellow, nice and light. I don't know if you can see that. See, we've tinted the white, and that's what you're going to draw with. And then you're going to scrape your brush on the side of the plate so that you end up with like a flathead screwdriver almost, and that's the edge we're going to use to draw a nice thin line. Not thick, we don't want to press hard. And this is where you get to give yourself some idea of how big a pumpkin you want. This is pretty big, right? It's more, I'd say more than half of your canvas. So we're going to start on the left side and we're going to go like this and down and around. We're not going to do this part yet. I'm going to add them in later. So it's over here, down and around, and a nice curve like that. A nice curve on the pumpkin. We don't want it to come down straight. Bring it round. So brush held flat like that. We're going to start on one side. Make sure you can all see what I'm doing. And about this high up, I'm going to come up and down and up and around. I don't like that. I don't like what I did. Too curvy at the top there. I'm going to, and this is something that you can do because you're using a nice pastel yellow in which you can make corrections easily. We can curve that off a little bit, bring it around a little wider, and bring it around. Okay? Remember, you're doing in that pastel yellow. I'm doing it in this blue so that you can see. And even then, I think that's too curvy. Let's make that a little fatter. Okay. You want it more plump. And now we can do the gap here. We're going to add up here and slightly higher than our curve here, slightly higher. And here we're going to close the gap with just a little lump. So we've done our curve, corrected any way you want, add a little higher lump and a little bridge down here. Now with your brush, we're going to put in some curves to remind us that this is in fact a curved object. Your handle is going to go here. And we want the curves to come off from here. Just a few of them, just a reminder that this is a curved object. Once again, I'm still not happy with the shape. I can correct it. Make it a little fatter. And you can do the same. You can keep playing with that to get the final shape of how plump a pumpkin you fancy doing. That's the beauty of doing it in that pastel yellow. All right. Now we don't have to worry about the handle of the pumpkin. And do you know what the name, the proper name of a pumpkin handle is? If you do, put it in chat, let me know. And I'll reveal the answer in a minute. So I'm done with my outline of my pumpkin because now I'm going to paint the background. Now the color of the background is again your choice. By the way, I'm going to clean this brush now. I don't want this for a while. I'm going to clean it in the water now. I may not have this time gone over the very important pro tip of how to clean your brush. Grab your cup, put the brush to the very bottom, scrub, 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 dab out. And the real good cleaning comes using your paper towel or napkin. Dab, 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 dab. The more you dab, the more you scrape, the cleaner it comes, and all done, all clean. Put that aside. I'm switching to my large brush. And I'm going to make up, for me, I like this color. I use this color a lot as a background. It's a grayed light blue. So I'm going to make some light blue to start. I'm going to get about that much blue on my brush, and I'm going to mix it right into the closest corner of white. I'm going to start mixing in place. You notice I'm not doing this, right? I'm not making a big circle. I'm just mixing in place. Right about half of that white, I think. And I'm going to scrape that off. Now that alone by itself can be a nice color. But now I'm going to gray it. I'm going to put in a teeny, eeny, weeny, itsy, bitsy, tiny little corner of black. I mean tiny. That's a good start. Little corner there into that mixture. And take a look at it. Is that what I want? No, I could do a little bit more black to gray it up. A little bit at a time. You can always add, but you can't take out. So it's always good to practice just putting a little bit at a time in. And I like this gray blue that comes out. Now I want plenty on my brush, so that's both sides of my brush. I've got lots of paint on it. Both sides. And now I'm going to start painting the background. From right to left, left to right. Right from one edge of the canvas to the other. You can do what I'm doing here by moving it back and forth like this, but that will, if you don't remember, that will leave brushstroke marks. We don't have brushstroke marks. So we'll get rid of those by just smoothing it over like that, from one edge of the canvas to the other. Make sure you cover all of it. Back and forth. You see how many times I'm going back and forth in the same spot? And you start to fill in the background. Now every time I refresh my brush by dipping it into that puddle of grey blue, I can change it up a little. I can add a bit more white. It gives it texture, it gives it context, it gives it a nice feel to the background. So I'm just going to dip into what I've got on the go. I think I'm going to scoop a bit more white in there and continue on top of what I've done and across. Right across, back and forth, blend it back up there, bring that down. I'm a big proponent of blending, lots of blending going on. Smooths out hard lines, it mixes colors up. You start getting a nice effect like that. Now, if you want to get fancy, which some people really do, and it's lovely to see, you can paint that color around the edges. So wherever you meet the edge, that color can bleed over to the edge of the frame of your canvas. And remember, we're going to be doing the pumpkin orange, so we'll save this part for orange. That's if you want to finish it off. It's a nice touch. So I'm reloading my brush, and I'm going to go over one side to the other. I guess I got a kind of bit of an ombre going, huh? A little darker up top, lighter as we go down. That's always nice. You can go around the outside edges of your pumpkin. And this is where you can also reshape your pumpkin. If you say to yourself, I think I drew it too big, or needs to be a little indented on one side, now you can actually go around with your background to change the shape of your pumpkin. Just fill in all the background. So hopefully you haven't copied me exactly by painting your pumpkin outline in blue. Remember, I did that in blue so you could see. You've done yours in this lovely pastel yellow. Finish off the background. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush when we do the background. That's one of the very first things you'll notice you don't have enough paint, is if the canvas suddenly starts showing up a lot, your paint seems to run out on your brush. You know you haven't put enough paint on your brush, which is very common. Don't be afraid when we're doing the background that you have enough paint on both sides of your brush. I think that's coming along nicely for a background. I'm always fond of this color. I use it a lot. Different shades of this, different shades of gray going on in it. I think it works well as a sort of a neutral background, as a base. All right, how's everybody doing? Please remember, don't hold your breath when you paint. It happens. Okay, so we're coming along. I'm just going to show you where I'm at these days. This. There's the original. So how's everybody doing? Doing all right? Let me know in chat how you doing, guys. And if you're from other parts of the world other than Ontario, Canada, let me know how your weather was today. I'm always interested to see how things are going on. I know out west it's been a little cold. We were blessed with a beautiful 24-degree and sunny day today. It was just lovely. I was in shorts. I was outside enjoying the weather. Just perfect. Okay, and again, if you're doing this edge, you can finish those off. Don't do this part here because that will be orange. Do the sides. And I'm done with this color, so I'm going to put my canvas down for a moment. I'm going to clean this brush. Scrub, 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 scrub. All right. Scrape, scrape. Still a few lumps on there. I'm going to do that again. Scrub good. I am cat-free in this studio today because we have a new lighting system. And Maya, our black and white fluffy cat, just loves to rub herself all over it and move the camera and the lights. So sorry, everybody. All right. One clean brush. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to check something on the computer. You guys finish up. I'll give you a couple of minutes there to finish up. And then we can move on to making up our orange. Getting started doing different shades of orange with a little brown in it, some yellow in it. And then we'll move on to the handle. Did everyone remember to figure out what the name of the handle is? The actual proper name? Oh, slow down. Hi, Melissa. Yeah, sorry about that. My apologies. I'll hang in. Jen from Keswick, how you doing? And Dianira, hi. How you doing from Curacao? Of course, you always have it warm. I am jealous. Beautiful spot. So slowing down for sure because I've stopped. I'm just waiting for everybody to catch up now. Do your background. And once again, as always, you are not obligated to copy exactly what I'm doing. You go, I don't want a blue background, I want a green background. Yep, do it. Do it. Do it whatever suits you. So, has everyone done their background? Let me know in chat if you're not done your background. Let's have a look. Can we leave the background white? Yeah, you do anything you want. It's your painting. I'm not going to come through the computer and stop you. You can do whatever you like. It's all good. From Prospect, Ohio, Susan. Hi. How you doing? Welcome to Kitchener, Ontario. Look it up. Melissa, not finished yet? Okay. I know people work at their own speeds. And what dictates that sometimes is the size of your brush, right? If you've got a smaller brush, it's going to take longer to cover the background. As I say, if you at home, if you have your own equipment, I'd really recommend getting a brush this size or bigger. 1 inch, 3/4 inch. That's always good for backgrounds. And we're going to use it to do our pumpkin as well. And then we'll switch to smaller brushes to do the finer work. Hey Lisa, you're welcome. I really enjoyed doing this. I've missed doing it for such a long stretch of time, of course, because of COVID. And now making things work, technology has kicked in, and we've figured it out, how to make it work. So this is fun. I'm glad we could reach so many people all over the world too. It's really cool. And things have really picked up, you know, this is our business, this is our livelihood. So we're really glad, I'm really happy to say that in particular this week coming up, we are booked almost every single day for a private party event. Most of them are virtual. We have one event that's going to be in person, but everything else is virtual. From small groups of 6, we're doing a small bachelorette, to groups of 60 for some large corporations with offices all over the world. And through Zoom, we can do these parties, and it's so good. So if you're interested in something like that, either for a private home event or for your office, just email me at info@paintandcocktails.com. I'll send you all the details, and we can work out our schedules, and we can make this work. And it's really quite cost effective, especially compared to in-person events. And that way you also get to choose your own painting. You know, you're not stuck with what I choose. All right, I think we should be good to go. So we're going to make up some orange, which of course is red and yellow. All right, and the proportions of those will determine the shade. Make sense? The amount of red you put in. So let's give this a try. I actually have these two bleeding together. Let's try some red right into some yellow. A little bit of red to start. More yellow, for sure. For sure more yellow. Like 10 to 1. Now I'm not going to be using all my yellow because I need that for my green. I'm going to mix up my blue and yellow to make green. But I'm mixing some up here. It doesn't take long. I got orange on the go. I got orange. Now you may notice that when I mix up colors, when I look at my brush, it's not homogeneous. It's not all together one color. It's a marbleized blend. I prefer that because when you put your brush to the canvas, it makes these lovely textures. It's not just one smooth color. And for me, that's perfect. Okay, so I've got quite a bit of paint on there. I'm happy with that. I'm going to be using a lot. Now this is acrylic paint. It dries fast, which is great, but it also does show the direction of your brush stroke marks. So we don't want to be painting our pumpkin left to right horizontally. We want to follow the lines. We did these curvature lines to give them a reminder that this is a curved object, and we're going to start following those as we paint. So we're just going to put those lines down like this. We're going to follow the lines of the curvature that we have already painted. We want those to show up. Nice, remember to curve right from the bottom to the top, to the bottom. Follow those lines. The very shape of those lines is what we want to show in our brush stroke marks. And we will be adding different shades to this. We're going to add some brown to brown out the orange a bit, but when we first start, that's what it looks like. All right, there's some shades of orange going on there, and every time you refresh your brush and mix into your puddle of orange, you can change it up again if you need to. If you want to add a little bit more red into that mix, a little, just a little. Just like black, a little bit of time. You can add, you can't take away. I'll show you the difference. So just added a bit more red. This is going to change this up a little bit. I'm going the left side and the right side. The difference in shade. Kind of straight up and down the middle. Okay, so you follow that technique, following the curves. I'm going to mix up my puddle of orange again, a bit more yellow this time. Follow my curve around both sides of the brush. Nothing really fancy here, just remembering to follow. Now, you may notice my technique here. I'm not doing this. No. Let's be bold. I'm going to make long strokes like this. Long strokes. It's a far better technique. You get to spread the paint. It's smooth and it shows the curvature much better. Okay, now we've come to the edge. I want to use the front of my brush, a little bit more delicate this time. Just want to make sure that I follow the edge of the pumpkin and I can paint in between that. Okay, and now I'm going to do the top part too. And I think I'll do that a little darker. So this time I'm going to throw in teeny tiny bit of brown into that puddle. Mix it in, just browns it off a little bit. Let's have a look, see what that looks like. A little darker. There. Okay, that's our basic pumpkin done for the moment. I'm going to shade this up in a second. We want this paint to dry a little bit. It doesn't take long. For those of you who have painted with acrylic paints and with me, you know, this stuff dries really fast. I think the top's already dry, completely dry, bone dry. So we don't want this bone dry yet. We want it tacky dry, enough that it will accept new paint on top without just spreading around, and then wet enough that it will blend a little bit. We're not just painting on top of dry paint. So it means just waiting a little bit. I can still, it's a little too shiny. I'm going to wait just a little bit, and then I'm going to mix up some of that darker brown. I'm going to do some shading. Excuse me, when I say darker brown, darker orange with a little brown in it, and a little bit more red as well. And we're going to make up some different shades of pumpkin coloring around us, so it's not just sort of one or two colors. We want to get multiple shades going on. That's what really makes a lovely painting. It's the layering of the same color in different shades, or even, depends on what you're doing, different other colors on top. Just the layering is always what makes a painting just beautiful. All right, how are we doing anymore? Chat, everyone's busy, okay. And then we're going to do the handle. And this is pretty free form. We're not going to copy this exactly. We're going to do something similar but different. And the leaves, this has only got 4 leaves. That's fine too. Leaves can be tricky, but you're allowed to put as many as you want as well. So let me know if you are ready to move on to the next shading, because I don't want it to get too dry, although it's still shiny wet. Just let me know if you finished the front of your pumpkin, guys, before we start moving on. I haven't got my music set up yet. I need some. I always love music around me, so unfortunately I have to sort of dance to myself. That's the way it goes. You know what helps? This is the most important part of painting. Cheers. If you are drinking with me tonight, let me know what you're having. As I say, this is a nice Ontario white wine. We do white wines well. Debbie, you done? Great. Are you having a cocktail or a wine with me tonight? It's weird not having the cats jump on me. It's kind of cool though. Maybe I can secure the camera a little better and I can have them join me another day. Okay, let's have a look. How is that? Yeah, it's probably still a little shiny, right? Wine. All right. I don't know, Wolfhead. Is it red or white, Melissa? Oh, I can see what you're seeing now at the moment, guys. There was a background. See that? That was a painting. That was just a drawing we were going to paint and never got around to it. Having pop. All right. I find pop too sugary these days for me. I used to drink quite a bit of pop, but haven't for many years. The only time I'll drink a pop these days is a G&T. Or even without the G. Just some limed up tonic water is delicious for me. Debbie T, you gotta work in the morning. I'm so sorry. That does happen. Sometimes you gotta work in the morning. Diet too, yeah. Okay, I think this is ready for another layer of shade. So, your choice. You can add a little brown like I did up here, or a little bit more red. You can redden up and darken that puddle of orange. Not too red, we want it still orangey, but you can tell instantly it's darker in color. And this time we're going to scrape off the brush on the side of the plate, not too much paint. And we're going to use a lighter touch. And I may every now and then just go use the front as well as the side. So maybe I'll start off with the front, just to see how that looks. And put some brushes down here, nice and light. Again, it's up to you how ruddy a pumpkin you want. What shade of orange do you have on the go? Back and forth, same strokes, just layering. And the same with the back. Get the back on, make it just a little darker. Okay, so we've got natural lines starting to show. The lighter orange underneath, the darker orange on top, layered up like that. Gives it kind of a natural effect. Melissa, you have white Zinfandel and a Wolf Head coffee whiskey. Sounds good. I like it. I like it. So that didn't take long to do. We've got ourselves a pumpkin with different shades going to go. And I'm now going to highlight these lines. For me, of course, they're in blue. They look kind of weird. And with you, they may have disappeared, or you may just be able to see them. But I want to add some darker shading to that. I'm going to use, I haven't cleaned my brush. I'm going to dip it in a bit of brown, put that into my orange, make it really sort of a dark browny orange. Not much, you don't need much at all, less is more here, because we're going to use just the front edge. And I'm going to go over those lines. I need some more. I say less is more, but you know, actually need some. Just nice and light. Just using the edge. Just using the edge. Need some more. I'm careful not to use too much because I don't want it to spread. I want it to stay thin. Maybe now I don't have hardly any on my brush now. I'm just going to lightly guys, light feather strokes with that brown orange I have now. Just as another shade. Fill in the background a bit. I think I'm happy with that. Well, hi to your three other friends there, Melissa. Are they painting as well? Okay, I'm done with my front of my pumpkin, I think, for now. I'm happy. You take a look at yours, you decide if you're happy, and I'm going to clean my big brush. Scrub to the bottom. Tap that out, scrape it off. We're going to be switching to a medium brush to do the handle of the pumpkin. Anyone else remember the name of what that is? What it's properly called? It is the peduncle. True story, peduncle. That's the name of the handle of a pumpkin. And this is a lovely peduncle. And we're going to do a nice curved one. And we're going to start with the base. The base is basically like a hand with fingers resting on top in the indenture of the pumpkin at the top. And this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see how many lines you happen to have. So we have one going to the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And that's where we're going to be putting the fingers of the base of the peduncle. And the handle comes up like a tree trunk and it tapers off and comes down into the vines. And we can switch those vines, we'll switch to our small brush. So medium brush, and we're going to be using brown. And once again, I just want to use the very tippy tip, like a flathead screwdriver, to start drawing. Now if the paint's too wet, it's not going to work, so I'm just realize that. I take a look how wet that is. But essentially we want to sort of draw little fingers. Yes, it's still a little too wet, I think. Yeah, it is. My bad. Well, wait just a minute then. I don't mind. Because that means I can have a sip of my wine. Cheers. I'm not sure how you guys are painting. I'd actually like to learn. Are you having it flat on a table? Do you have a little easel? A tall easel? Or are you standing up like this? Let me know. Write in chat. Let me know the method of how you're painting on your canvas. And also the size. What size of canvases did you manage to find? Are you getting a big one like this, 16 by 20? Or are you opting for something smaller? As part of our service for doing our virtual paint parties, we also are able to ship out art kits, which include canvas and paints, brushes, etc. And I'm kind of curious as to, is because I happen to use the 16 by 20, is that what everybody wants? I'm not sure. It's what I offer right now, but the shipping's expensive. It gets less expensive for the smaller canvases. So that might be a real attractive feature, is having a smaller canvas instead of the big one, to reduce, like saving $10 per item when it's shipped. You have an easel? All right. Very good, Lisa. So you're the pro. And you're doing 8 by 10. Okay. Yeah, good to know. Good to know. And Linda, you have 9 by 14 in a small easel. Debbie, 11 by 14. You stand and hold it sometimes. Okay, I'll lay flat. 5 by 7. Oh, that's tiny, Susan. Okay. And you're using a little easel. Good to know. So it might be worthwhile exploring on shipping out smaller canvases. Yes. And I don't know about you guys. Obviously, you have your own equipment, but trying to source materials these days, it can be crazy. Sometimes they have stock and inventory, and often they have nothing. So it can be a bit of a panic. You're good at following directions. 9 by 12, okay. Oh, gee. It's okay, Lisa. I got it. Glad you got puberty too. It catches up to all of us eventually. Okay, let's try this again. So we've got some brown. I mix it into most of my orange here, but it's pretty brown. It's basically brown. And so I can draw some fingers here. 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 It's still pretty wet. Here. It's still pretty wet. See, if the paint's too wet, it just doesn't hold a new layer on top of it. Okay, I'm just going to join these up here. This is the base of the peduncle. Now we can always do more layers on top of each other. I want to give you the idea of where we're putting this. You get the idea? Has a base in the middle there, brown, and its fingers are reaching out around your curves, just a little bit. Lisa, you see it now, huh? That's okay, you made us laugh. So we're doing this. We're doing the little fingers that reach down to a little bit of the curves, and we're just going to fill this in, and we're going to grow the handle. And that's really all it is. It's not difficult, but we will be using the front end of the brush, and it's basically like a tree that's slightly angled. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to roll my brush over and taper off. That's one side of the handle. And I'm going to do the same thing slightly on the other side. Just come over and around and match it there. And that gets painted in brown. Just paint it in. You can reshape it like I'm going to do if you weren't happy with it. We're using our medium brush. And for me, it's going to take probably a couple of layers of paint. And you know the difference between layers of paint, right? We're not just throwing on a great, big, thick layer. For many colors, like red is one of them. This particular brown I'm using means you put a first coat on, let it dry, put a second coat on, maybe a third coat on after they've each dried to some degree. That's how you do layering of a shade. It's not blending, you're actually layering it. In some paints, particularly if they're thinner, just a particular type that you're using, I find the reds I use, if I want it to be a nice bold red, definitely going to take a couple of layers. The whites, if I want the white to really shine, I'm definitely going to need 2 or 3 layers of white. Well, we're going to layer this later as well anyway. You are, and I'm going to show you by adding a little bit of black. How much black? How much black? Teeny, little bit of black, because we can always add more. We can't take it away. We're going to add a little bit of black to our brown, and we're going to throw some in and some white to give shading. But this particular brown I'm using definitely needs a couple of layers. All right. Almost looks like a curling stone. Nice handle for that. Now, you can at this point switch to your small brush, where we're going to just continue the vine along and adding vines to it, where we can continue a part of the handle around and up. I like to use the medium brush front edge. I find, especially if you scrape it on the sides of the plate, you end up with even a finer line. See that? That's the size of line you can get just by a nice steady hand, smooth action. You can extend lines, I find, better than the small brush. But if you're afraid you're going to be making too much of a mess, it's going to spread out, switch to the small brush. And the technique is always the same. It's a light touch. So the bristles are gently going along the canvas Don't press hard with the small brush because you'll have the same bad effect, and that the bristles will splay and you'll spread and you won't get a nice thin line, which is why I like to use this. So maybe we'll put one up top here. I'm going to come up from underneath a little bit, cross on over, curl it around, bring it off. Scrape, 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 scrape. Thin edge. And maybe I'll extend this a little longer. Come up here, bring it down. This is while the base of my handle is drying, I can continue to paint. And I'll be returning to this. I don't like the way it is right now. Maybe we'll bring one up here, bring it around. And you notice when I reach the end of how far I want to go, to get that nice pointy edge, I just gently lift the brush off of the canvas. I don't suddenly stop. You just lift it off, swoop away, and you get this nice pointy edges. And maybe one more coming off of here. Bring it down, nice light touch. And you can always add maybe another just for fun. There we have some vines on the go. Take a look at this paint, still a little too wet for my liking. I'll let it dry a wee bit longer. Remember, I'm looking to layer the paint, not blend and change the color. I'm going to layer it. So at the moment, as you can see, it's too translucent. You can see through it. It's not ready yet. Like the pumpkin, it needed layers. Everyone doing good? It's coming along, right, guys? All right. So I've added a wee bit of black to my brown. I've made some of a darker brown. Let's see how that works on top of this one. Oh yeah, that's nice. I'm just going to put a layer down. Remember, so I started off, you may have seen me with some little brush strokes, but then I extend that, smooth that out with some nice long brush strokes. That's better. I like that much better. And I'm going to add that to my feet, right? Feet, fingers that reached the base. It's like a hand with its fingers coming out. Oh, that's still a little wet. And I'll extend some of it, I'll paint over with that little darker. I'll paint along the vines here. Not all of it, just some. Okay. And then when that's dry, I'm going to add a little darker portion to the underside here to give it a bit of shadowing. Okay. So now we can think about doing some leaves. And we're going to start, we're going to use our small brush, so now I'm going to clean my medium brush. I will be returning to this for the leaves as well, but I'm going to use the small brush for some drawing techniques. Now, green. You may already have green paint, that's fine. We will want different shades of that green, and you can change that up by adding a bit of yellow to it, a bit of black to it. It will change the shade of your green. But I'm going to have to make up some green. So I've got some blue. I just took a scoop of blue, putting it into a corner of some yellow, and voila, changes to green. The more yellow, the brighter the green. The more blue, the darker the green. It doesn't matter when we start off because we're going to be changing things up as we go anyway. And I like to roll the bristles and scrape because I want to use this to draw. And they're kind of fig leafy, yeah, kind of wide. And they come into like a star shape here. So let's choose one right here. I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to come over, and the other side, come over. So, kind of like that. I'm going to bring it in. And we're going to grow it down. There, you can see that better. And then we're going to give it a point. There you have one leaf. And essentially, we're just going to copy that for the other ones too. One side and the other. Down. Another one. There. Bring it down. And a leaf. And we can put one here. The problem with using a small brush is that the paint comes off really quick. So you need to refresh the brush often. Maybe we'll do one here. We can reshape them as we go. That definitely needs reshaping. Big leaves here. So I'm done with this small brush. I'm just going to put in my water, go back to my medium brush, and grab out my green. And I'm going to basically start painting that in. This is the first layer of color. We will be using a number of shades. And remember to follow the curvature of your drawing so that the leaves has that shape to it, because you can always see your brush marks. So I have to make up some more myself. And every time you do make up a color, of course, what happens? It changes its shade, which is fine. Because there's multiple shades. And most leaves have a spine down the middle. And we can draw and paint from those sides. Get right to the edges. Leaf number 1. I need to reshape those leaves. Now, excuse me for a second, I'm going to turn around to look at what I'm doing because I've been painting on a side, so I need to actually see if it's proportionate. So give me 1 second. So I really don't like this side here. I think that's too much. I'm going to grow this leaf a little wider just to help proportions. That's better. Okay, and now we can color in your other leaves. You're welcome to change up proportions. You can welcome to go on top of your pumpkin too. It's funny how perspective works. You know, I'm painting standing up and painting on the side, and I was doing a sun the other day, and from here it looked like a perfect circle. When I looked at it head on, and it was an egg shaped sideways. Oh my God. And you look at it this way, oh, it looked fine. Look at it head on. Ugh, wrong. Don't notice it until you notice it. I'll bring this one down a bit more. A little wider on that one. One side. Of course, you can work on whatever leaf you happen to be working on. This is just where I'm at the moment. And then last leaf. Again, you are welcome to as many leaves as you want to do. Gonna mix up some more green. Okay, so I can now return to the first leaf. I don't know if you guys can see that, sorry. Made up a new change of color there, a little darker. I added more blue. Just darken it up a little bit. I may throw in a wee tiny bit of black. See what that looks like. You notice I'm not going to be painting the whole thing in that color. I'm doing lines. Do the stem and then painting nice and light to give it that texture look. Okay, I'm going to copy that idea. I put a little bit of black into that green. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other leaves. Just feathering in some of this color. My spine. And then I'll add maybe some yellow to my green to lighten it up, to throw it some highlights in there. See, the layering of the different shades of the color you're using is what brings things to life. The opposite is true if we're just going to use one shade. It doesn't give things life. Bring a spine down the middle. And last leaf, which may be too a little wet still. Let's have a look. Oh, that's fine. Get that spine shown up. Okay, there you go. Hi, Linda. Oh, you're very welcome. I try and do these every 2 weeks. No promises, but we've been pretty regular right now for every couple of weeks. I think that's as much as people want. All right. I think I want mine a little darker, so I'm putting a bit more black into my puddle of green. And I'm going to add some more the black green. Just throw some on there, see what happens. Nice light touch. That's what's important. I need to refresh my brush there. right, I like that. We've got different shades all going on. All right, I'm going to clean this brush, and I'm going to finish off with some blacky brown on the handle, on the peduncle. It's a fun word, isn't it? Peduncle. 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 Okay, so I've added a bit more black to my brown, and I'm just going to do some shading under here. Some stripes. Shading under this part. Go over these fingers again, especially with the blacky brown. Works nice. And I'm done. So I'm just going to hold this up for you guys. A little bit of black into your green for your layering. You can add some yellow if you want to do a lighter green. I stuck with a darker green. But you practice. If you try with the light yellow, the yellow into the green, and you don't like it, just let it dry and go back to the black in the green and go on top. But I found with the colors I was using anyway, it was a pretty light green underneath, so that shows up between the brush strokes of the darker blacky green. And then for the handle of the pumpkin, the peduncle, I just added a bit of black in there to the brown, a little bit more so the black was kind of showing a bit, and then lightly did some strokes to darken off the handle, especially underneath, so that it's shadowy, and especially where the fingers come around the pumpkin itself. One of the other things we can do perhaps is darken up your lines a little bit. Now mine, of course, remember mine are in blue, so they're already dark. But for yourselves, if you want to darken them up, we can use that dark blacky brown very sparingly, just to trace some of the curve of the line, very, 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 very lightly. Very, very lightly. That's an option. Oh, some more paint. Again, the problem is using a small brush. Paint doesn't last on it. I've got almost no paint on there, just scraping some of that around. That's an option too. And of course, the last thing you need to do is sign it. Traditionally, the bottom right corner, your initials and the year perhaps, or your full name, that's all allowed too. And then you get to hang it. The sides are still wet. That's why my apron looks like it does. All right, does anybody have any questions? Everyone still at the beginning? They haven't got past drawing around the pumpkin? I hope not. Hope everyone's good. You get to play, right? We call this fun art, not fine art. Get to play. Get to throw those different shades of green on top of the leaves. Layer, layer, layer. Same as the pumpkin. If you want to add some brown like I just did, layer it up. You don't like it, paint over it in some orange. It's quite forgiving. And I think there we have the great pumpkin. I think we're ready to wrap up. So if you have any questions or any comments you want to make right now, go ahead and I can answer them. Otherwise, when we're done, please post pictures of your paintings, ideally with you holding your painting. That would be great. Post them on our group page here. And if you want any questions answered after this, again, you can always email me or post into the Facebook page. Email is info@paintandcocktails.com, or you're welcome to post on our group page here, and I'll always respond. So I hope you had fun. Cheers, everybody. I just finished my wine. Cheers. Thanks for joining us from all over the world, and hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. Yum. Bye, everybody.